Alright, we're coming back with the Week 13 NFL recap, starting out with the Seahawks versus the Jets last Sunday. The Seahawks have consistently been getting this label of being a cardiac team, and to be honest, I brushed it off to the side, but I can't even lie to y'all. This game right here would probably place firmly in that label. I'm not even going to lie. Because, yes, they did get a touchdown drive early in the second quarter, capped off with none other than A.J. Barner. And shout out to him. Solid catch and run for a 12-yard touchdown. But in the midst of all that was total chaos. I mean, they would get a touchdown drive, the Jets, with Davante Adams getting a reception touchdown, mossing none other than Josh Jobe, which again, I don't know why the fuck you have Josh Jobe covering Davante Adams for some reason, but it is what it is. They proceed to then miss the extra point with Anders Carlson, as Leonard Williams would block that, which is foreshadowing, by the way. But that's neither here nor there, because you want to know what ensues, including that Seahawks touchdown drive. You get 3 straight kickoff returns that are fumbled by the Seahawks. 3 straight. In no way, shape, or form should that even happen. You had D. Williams commit the first one, and Kene Nwangwu forced it. Brandon Echols recovered it. And that led to an easy touchdown drive for the Jets, where Isaiah Davis scored the reception touchdown off of a kind of jet sweep, I suppose. Which I guess the Jets just happened to love that. They would get the 2-point conversion and take a 14-0 lead before the aforementioned Barner touchdown. Then oh man, it does not make any sense, bro. Like, then you get another possession entirely following that score prior to them kicking it off. The Seahawks would kick off, and Kene Nwangwu would get a goddamn 99-yard kickoff return for touchdown to open it up 21-7. But after this next one, in which Laviska Shenault Jr., who fumbled the second one, would also fumble on the third occasion and give the Jets easy field position. Favorable field position inside the Seattle 40-yard line. It was not looking the best. It wasn't. I was not even going to lie. And just imagine if they were actually able to broadcast the game, which they should have been because it was played in New York. Instead, they wanted to have on a game I'll talk about later. Anyways, they get the ball. They try to drive a little bit. I'm not going to lie. They're getting the ball to Davante Adams. They're getting in the Seattle red zone. And then we get down to 3rd and 7. Now, I didn't watch the game, but I had to watch the play in post because this shit changed the momentum of the game completely. But when I initially was tracking it, I was waiting anxiously to see what happened. And then the score changes to 21-13. As I look frantically, and I'm trying to see what happened. And then I see that this man, Leonard Williams, intercepted Aaron Rodgers and ran 92 yards for a touchdown. I could not believe it. I was very ecstatic that a play was made because there was almost no other way to get out of that situation. And surely enough, Leonard Williams, in a game where he wanted to seek revenge against the Jets, obviously. He stepped up to the mantle and he took firm stance on it. Real talk. Then I saw the play. And he initially was supposed to rush the passer, but he decided, all right, I'm going to back out in coverage. Got a nasty lurk on Aaron Rodgers, too. Broke a tackle, had Devin Witherspoon trying out there in front of him to get the block that would seal everything. And he was gone. He hauled ass. He was gassed afterwards, but no, credit to him. Like, that changed the entire complexion of this ball game. From there, the Jets, they tried. They were mostly held in check. Mostly. They didn't score again. Starting with that kickoff, like after that kickoff return for touchdown, and with that interception, the defense was inspired. They weren't going to continue to get those easy drives again. They did not score a single time after that. Since the early second quarter. Tremendous work by the defense. Like, ensuing possession. And follows that return. And yes, the PAT was blocked as well, somehow. By Quinnen Williams this time. But the Jets would turn the ball over on downs. And then the Hawks would drive down for a field goal. That would essentially end off the half. The teams just traded punts. And they ended off the half with a, kind of just routine knee. Nothing too spectacular there, to be honest. Then you get to the third quarter and I guess madness ensued a little bit. Easy stop on the Jets to open it up, but then you get a turnover on downs by the Seahawks, in which they had gotten down to the 4-yard line after a deep DK Metcalf catch. You get 1st and 4 in a goal-to-go situation. And then you get down to the 3rd and goal on their 3, where they get bailed out with a defensive pass interference because Chuck Clark wanted to play undisciplined football. So now you get 1st and goal on their 1-yard line. Apparently, it's much harder to get a yard than they anticipated. They were not able to punch it in at all. They had 5 chances, by the way. But Kenneth Walker didn't gain a single yard. An incomplete pass was thrown. No gain by Zach Charbonnet. But there was a penalty. So it was not accepted as a play at all. And then another incomplete pass. And then instead of trying to punch it in, which, I guess it's kind of hard to really say that you should just go with that approach because you clearly didn't make it happen prior. Geno Smith would try to have a play action, and he scrambles all the way back, gets sacked at the 16-yard line. Wasted possession there. But with Tyrese Knight recovering a fumble forced by Julian Love on my namesake Malachi Corley, they would get the ball back, so I guess it was fine still. There was a direct chance to take control, fuller control of the game right there, and it was just completely blown. They would respond with a field goal, but again, you still wanted to have more out of that. Another Jets punt. 3 and out led to the Hawks mounting a 9-play, 71-yard drive that took off 6 minutes and 3 seconds. With Zach Charbonnet getting the game-winning touchdown. Still, there was enough time left for the Jets to mount a drive. They had 5 minutes and 31 seconds to work with. And they mounted a decent... They had a valiant effort here, I guess. You take up 13 plays, and you gained 38 yards, but when it came down to it, on 4th and 15, with good work by none other than Leonard Williams, sacking Aaron Rodgers on that prior 3rd and 10, made things more difficult for their chances. Made things highly difficult for them. I would have thought that they would have kicked the field goal, to be honest, but given the spot that they were in, I suppose it made more sense to just go for it all at that point. You want to try to end the game. You don't even want to see the Hawks get the ball back because you just wouldn't leave that up to chance. You know that onside kicks aren't that successful. So why not just take those matters into your own hands? But again, a good win for the Seahawks. So again, it looked like it was going to be highly unlikely for just a second. I can't hold you. Definitely had everybody in the first half. But it is what it is. It helps their chances in the playoff picture. They continue to have the NFC West division lead with this. Geno Smith would go 20 of 31 passing for 206 yards and a touchdown. The run game was just very odd. I don't know. I mean, you get a touchdown run here, but Kenneth Walker, the third, yes, injuries made him miss a couple games or so. But it's been a pretty, I guess he's been getting more involved in the receiving game, but when you look at these numbers of 16 and 49 in this game, and then across the entire season, I mean, yes, 7 rushing touchdowns, but 145 rushes and 542 yards. It even states he's dealing with ankle and calf injuries as well. I don't know. It's leaves a lot to be desired. Again, he's been getting utilized a little more in the receiving game, and that's certainly helped on some possessions throughout the season. But I don't know. I would have expected a little more rushing yards at this point. Jackson Smith and Jigba, on the other hand, continues to go crazy, man. 5 total touches and 79 total yards in the game, including some timely plays once again, because that is exactly what he does. On a drive, that very field goal drive, I believe, they were in a spot where they faced 4th down and 6, and Geno Smith launched up a pass off his back foot with Jackson Smith and Jigba streaking open and catching it, picking up the first down, and getting the Hawks in the goddamn red zone. Without that play, there's a good chance they don't even find themselves in position to at least shorten the lead, and gives themselves a better chance of coming back in that game. DK Metcalf, though, would also have 4 receptions for 66 yards. On the other hand, yeah, the Jets are probably just finito, man. I mean, the defense, once they were not in situations where they were completely vulnerable because they did not have a bunch of field to operate with, the Jets went silent, and Aaron Rodgers was virtually ineffective. I mean, only 53.8% completion, 185 yards and 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Their rushing attack, 89 total rushing yards and on 21 carries. Decent, but when push came to shove, wasn't even remotely enough to force the Hawks defense when drives started in their own territory. Not enough to deter them from doing what they need to do to get the ball back for their offense. Devontae Adams will have 5 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown, and Garrett Wilson would also have 5 receptions for 41 yards. Credit to Will McDonald IV also. Dude, he just keeps it going. I said what I said, and I meant what I said. As of this point, he has 10 overall sacks. He had 2 in this very game. And the pressure was certainly being felt early on. Like, all respect to Will McDonald IV. He could actually find himself in the Pro Bowl for the AFC. Maybe it would be kind of hard for him to get a starter. I mean, you have a stacked amount of edge rushers over there. But at the very least, he should be getting some respect in that. He should be getting some respect. That's all I would say. I can't also go as far as to say, oh, maybe he could make an all-pro team. We really just have to see. They have too many edge rushers on the AFC. It is such a stacked position that it would be very, very difficult for him. He would have to, this is a breakout season for him, and he'd have to be doing even more than that just to sneak in to an all-pro selection or so. At least that's how it seems, unfortunately. Penalties were also a huge portion of this game. The Jets, again, while some of the flags may have been ticky-tack at the same time, to be called for 12 different penalties in the game. And then you have DJ Reed Jr., former Seahawk, by the way, complaining about the refs being shit. You cannot continue to put yourselves in those positions. At some point, if those many penalties are being called on you, and yes, some of them were at significant points of time, but you hold some of that responsibility as well to not do anything that would even remotely force a ref to pick up a flag in the first place, or doing all of these maneuvers that would make fit for a penalty. Just don't do it. But they continue to, and so they got what they asked for, I guess. Great win, like I said, and hey, Leonard Williams, Geno Smith, obviously, and Jason Myers. People forget that Jason Myers played for the Jets. But all 3 of those guys get revenge against that squad. I guess DJ Reed Jr. was just mad that he couldn't get revenge on the Seahawks. It is what it is. Moving on to the Thanksgiving Day action. Now, I did miss the early portions of this Bears-Lions game as I was occupied. But I was tracking it still. And from what I had seen, it was bound to just go completely bad for the Bears. I mean, you had Jameis and Williams starting out by extending the very first Lions drive on multiple third downs, getting them deeper into Chicago territory before they would settle for a Jake Bates field goal. And then, within just over a minute, that offense would get the ball back, drive 90 yards down the field in 10 plays, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, and David Montgomery getting involved all over before Sam Laporta would catch a 3-yard touchdown. Another punt by Chicago, another score, this time in the form of a field goal. for the Lions, even though they were initially deep in Chicago's red zone. So deep, in fact, they had first and goal on Chicago's 4-yard line. But penalties cost them, and then Jared Goff got sacked, leading them to that point. Another Bears punt. Another Lions score. With another Jake Bates field goal. Now, you can say that, honestly, they were dominating. Yes, to end off the half, leading by just 16-0, and given the fact that they had multiple possessions that went deep inside of Chicago's red zone, there's a good chance they could have came away with more points if they truly wanted to. And while that's true, at the same time, the Bears simply could do nothing with the ball. Like, quite literally, you find yourselves in a position where you punt the ball 3 straight times to open up your match against a very good Lions team, don't get me wrong, but like, damn, what kind of fight are you really showing at that point? Tyreek Stevenson said, enough of that shit. Enough of that fucking shit. I'm not going out like this anymore. And he, on the ensuing drive following a Bears 4-and-out, as Caleb Williams would throw back-to-back incomplete passes, Jared Goff would pass it to Jahmyr Gibbs, and he would run, getting near the goal-to-go situation before Tyreek Stevenson punched it out of his hands, and Javon Dexter Sr. recovered the fumble. Still, that meant nothing. It did, at the very least, prevent a Lions score, but the Bears would not respond. They didn't even get to... they turned it over on downs again. Not even giving themselves a fighting chance. Now, something must have changed in the second half, as I watched most of this play out. And surely enough, that's exactly what was happening. Run game was getting involved a little bit before Caleb Williams just went completely crazy after this point. Getting dots all over the place and getting decent scrambles too before throwing an absolute dime to Keenan Allen over in the middle for a 31-yard touchdown that would make the game 16-7. The defense was still in like that mode of just not necessarily playing up to par. They allowed them to drive 78 yards on 11 plays within 7 minutes of time before Sam Laporta got another touchdown catch. Like, so weird. Still, it was on pace to be a ball game. Embarrassingly enough, though, it would take the Bears all the way until the 30-second mark of the third quarter to log their first play in Detroit's red zone of the entire ball game, which is completely embarrassing because, for reference, by that very same point, the Lions had 19 plays in Chicago's red zone. But I'll tell you what, they made the most out of it. They made the most out of it. They had a very weird play call to DJ Moore on first and goal from the 9 following a pickup on the prior third down by Rome Dunze before Keenan Allen would get in that mode with the nasty release. One of the nastiest releases in the league still. Yes, he is a little older. He still got that. And Amik Robertson certainly found that out. Man got shaking out of his fucking shoes on the zig route. And Keenan Allen would be able to get the ball again for another touchdown catch, this time from 9 yards out. They failed a 2-point conversion, but it was getting closer. It was getting closer. Right? You would have the Lions punt the ball, and the Bears would punt the ball themselves as well. Tim Patrick got an 18-yard gain just catching and running somehow, which I didn't expect. And they looked like they were in prime position to take a 13-point lead after Amon-Ra St. Brown would pick up 18 yards on this 3rd and 22, getting them to Chicago's 26-yard line before, surprisingly, Jake Bates missed the 45-yard field goal on a drive that they had to have. Yes, it did kind of help that the Lions defense, and I guess some players on Chicago's offense too, were just crumbling. Some were referencing the short week and everything, but injuries were getting really bad out there. Josh Pascal would go out of the ball game with injury, and Malcolm Rodriguez as well would end up being taken out of the game as well with another injury. But over the course of that, Caleb Williams would make very good plays. Can't deny that at all. A 14-yard pass, a 9-yard pass, bringing it to a 3rd and 1 on Detroit's 31 before he threw it over the top for the deep fly to none other than DJ Moore to make the game 23-20. With the Lions punting the ball again, this is how the Bears' defense has come to be. When they needed the stops to be made, they rose to the occasion. And they gave their offense a fighting chance. Now, granted, because Jack Fox is such a good fucking punter, he made it extremely difficult for them to truly mount something. They had to work all the way back from the 1-yard line. Now, granted, they had all 3 of their timeouts, with 3 minutes and 31 seconds left to work with. Facing 3rd and 7, just a little bit into it, he would throw a 25-yarder to DJ Moore to pick up the first down. And then in another lane, you would get him making 3rd down, the next one, more manageable with another DJ Moore connection before DeAndre Swift picked it up and got them out to midfield. Now, here is where the madness does start to begin, at least. In a little bit of foreshadowing, Caleb Williams would be sacked by multiple players before maybe trucking Brian Branch. I don't know. Good improvisation on that play. They would be able to get themselves in multiple situations for manageable 4th down. Because granted, down by 3 points on Detroit's 44-yard line, Cairo Santos does not have that range. You have got to try and pick up the first down from here, or otherwise that's game. DJ Moore would catch the ball initially before OPI was called. Then they had to face 4th and 14 from their own 46-yard line, where DJ Moore would get the ball again for another 29-yard gain, as Kendall Vildor would be called for PI. It was called for PI. There was no play, so they were given a free first down. Now, they end up getting all the way back to 2nd and 20 because Caleb Williams does throw the pass complete, and he gets down Keenan Allen into Detroit's red zone, but Tevin Jenkins just wanted to have attention, I guess. He wanted some attention. I don't know. But Za'Darius Smith would fatefully sack Caleb Williams, and then facing a situation where they had 32 seconds left on the clock and a timeout. The best possible option for Matt Eberflus would have probably been to have called a timeout immediately after that play. Instead, as we watched it live, we saw this man take down the entire 30 plus seconds. As they would finally call a play after they were sorting out the specific formation they wanted, the specific routes they needed to run. Yes, Caleb Williams was all in a flux. No excuse there. But if that's seen, shouldn't somebody be making the decision to just give them a little breather and see what's going on, to properly adjust and try and get a better play that gets you into reasonable field goal range? Because again, from that current point, even from Detroit's 35-yard line, prior to him getting sacked back at the 41, you are very much harrowing the moment that Cairo Santos goes out there and kicks the ball from that deep. You dread it. You do not want that situation. Try and draw up a play with that break in mind to get the players out of bounds effectively and pick up enough yardage to get them in that field goal range. Instead, the entire time is ran down. They call a play with 6 seconds left, and it's a deep shot that falls incomplete, making the Bears lose the game 23-20. Absolute shit show. And as I will talk about later, it was fitting that things ended up the way they ended up for Eberflus. I'll get into it later. There's an extra development, but holy fuck. Just such ineptitude right there. I couldn't fathom it. I was dead ass speechless for like a couple minutes or so. I had no idea what the hell I just witnessed. Very controversial moment indeed. Everybody's talked about it at this point. People are still talking about it. Some Bears fans might not ever be able to forgive it as well. And that was evidenced by what would happen. But we'll get around to that. We'll get around to that. Moving on to Cowboys-Giants. Now, I thought this was going to be a shit game. And, I mean, I don't know. With Zach Martin and Jake Ferguson being out as well, on top of their litany of injuries, it was looking like it was going to be a rougher game for the Cowboys. But again, at least you have guys like Deron Bland and everything back there still to try and hold down the fort, right? The start of the game really went about as you expected, right? They would try to pick up goddamn first downs and shit with fucking pitch plays and stuff like that. They were only bailed out by Kayvon Thibodeau drawing himself off sides on that play. They would drive a little bit and get a field goal scored by Brandon Aubrey. I mean, their matter here was just doing this stuff consistently. And, I mean, on the other hand, the Giants got a little lucky, I want to say. Suppose we can call it luck. I mean, Drew Lock almost scored a rushing touchdown. He was close, but they reviewed the play. It took a long while with it, too, and he would be ruled out of bounds at the 1 yard line before Tyrone Tracy Jr. punched it in for a touchdown. It would be their last touchdown for quite some time. Because after that, I mean, whew, boy. Shit got bad, man. Shit got bad. Like, on a different play as well, you had Mozzie Smith just completely run into DeMarvion Overshown and knock him down for some reason. I thought that was exceptionally weird, but whatever. With that touchdown, the Giants would take their first lead in a ball game since week 6. That happened to be the game against the Seahawks. Okay, well, look, let's not talk about that. Do you know how difficult it really is for a team to just not lead? Like, for example, the Lions, they had on the same graphic, they were leading for like some time over like what, 360 minutes or some shit like that? And you could not find any amount of just seconds even to lead in a ball game for several fucking weeks. 7 exact weeks in a fucking... That's absurd. That's absurd, man. Oof. The Cowboys would get another drive to go. That would end in another field goal, and then, yeah. Giants are going to do giant kind of things, I guess. They tried to get Devin Singletary out on a screen, and Drew Lock would throw it, and DeMarvion Overshown would just utilize all of his fucking wingspan, stick his big-ass hands out, tip the ball up in the air, and get it for a 23-yard pick six that I didn't see in real time. But the fact that that happens, only for the New York teams. Only for the New York teams. There's no one else that shit can happen to. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it is crazy, bro. The Giants would punt the ball again. No, they almost got fortunate with Kevontae Turpin fumbling it, but he still got the ball back. They, for whatever reason, man, they wanted to keep trying to just get Jonathan Mingo involved. And it certainly didn't help them at all. On a 3rd and 9 from their own 2-yard line. You think he's going to make something happen for you from there? You got another thing coming. Punt. Easy punt. Giants would ensue with scoring on this drive with a field goal. One of the stupidest things ever happened. Probably the stupidest, most spineless sequences from a collection of football teams, right? You get first down because after that, they get the ball back. You get first down on their own 41-yard line for the Cowboys. And they try to get Rico down the ball in space. But this nigga, Luke Schoonmaker, would try his best to hold up Micah McFadden, and he would be called for OPI. But this man, Micah McFadden, literally told him to get the fuck off of him. He fucking slung his ass to the ground. Got him right up off of him, and he made the tackle anyways. Then, within a few plays, we get down to 2nd and 20 on their 31-yard line. Kayvon Thibodeau and Micah McFadden would both jump off sides and grant them 5 free yards. Now, they did not do anything with that. But that is absolutely ridiculous, man. That's just... That can't happen. That cannot happen, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie. They would end out the half with back-to-back punts. And then the Giants would fumble the ball to open up the third quarter. Now, Eric Kendricks would get it forced out, and DeMarvion Overshown in a game that would probably be considered his best at this point, just continued to add to it by getting that fumble recovery. Brandon Cooks would come in and catch the touchdown and would put them up 20-10. Then the game became 27-10 as Rico Dowdle would get in. They did suffer some injuries along the way on both sides as Dexter Lawrence II got hurt. CeeDee Lamb got hurt. Still, it wouldn't have had a great effect on the game, really. I mean, even with Dexter Lawrence in the middle, man, the Giants' defense just kind of... They were just not really on timing at all. They felt like they were the ones under fucking pressure in the game. I don't know how that's even possible. But whatever, I guess. I would suppose that with the game he was having, DeMarvion Overshown would have been on pace to get the Thanksgiving Day MVP for the game. But, fortune started to turn around for him after the Giants kicked their field goal. Because regardless of what they were doing, in possessions that followed, this man would get trucked by Theo Johnson, rookie tight end for the Giants out of Penn State. He would get juked out of his fucking socks by Tyrone Tracy Jr. on a catch. And he would allow Drew Lock to scramble in for a touchdown run. After getting exposed by Theo Johnson once again, I don't even know, man. It's just like, oh, what the fuck? Funniest thing ever could have really happened if Rico Dowdle had lost enough yardage, but it didn't. And I mean, you know, given the fact that the Giants would proceed to have defensive offsides and then follow that up with having too many men on the field, made things all the more easier for the Cowboys to just run the ball and close the game out. After a 3-yard catch by Brandon Cooks to pick up the first down, that's exactly what would happen, and the ball game would end with the Cowboys winning 27-20. Seriously, like, Dable and Mike McCarthy are just absolute fucking wizards. They are wizards, man. You know, I guess. Like, fuck no. Like, I ain't going for it. Because, like, only one team in the NFC, I'll just say this, has been mathematically eliminated from playoff contention, and that would be this Giants team right here after this loss to the Cowboys. But I'm not about to hear niggas talk about the Cowboys having a legitimate chance of making it still. They're not going to. However, Rico Dowdle would do something, I guess, in the realm of a milestone. He would be the first Cowboys running back in 26 straight games. The first one to tally over 100 rushing yards. The very first one. Battle of all of the running backs that you've had over that span of time. Completely embarrassing work. He would finish with 112 and a touchdown on 22 carries. Cooper Rush would also pass for 195 yards and a touchdown on 58.3% completion. You're never really supposed to win a game where Kevontae Turpin, of all people, is leading you in receiving yards. And yet, that's exactly what happened because the Cowboys are that bad. I don't know whether it was CeeDee Lamb necessarily getting locked up because the Giants' cornerback unit is just so weird. Like, Cordell Flott is not anything spectacular. Deonte Banks hasn't panned out very well for them. And then Adoree Jackson, for whatever reason, is just falling off a cliff completely. Especially when you take into account that this man was drafted with the ability to do it all, not just as a cornerback, but sometimes as a wide receiver and as a return man at USC. Over the years, I guess that has just fizzled out a little bit. I don't know. But he had some very erroneous mistakes in this game on his end. Though Lamb would finish with only 39 receiving yards. Like, again, you think that you would win a game like that. But this isn't your average ball game, I guess. Like I said, Overshown had 9 total tackles, pass deflection, an interception, a touchdown, and a fumble recovery. Pretty good game for him overall, as I previously stated. Micah Parsons would have 1.5 sacks, and the Cowboys would tally 6 total. On the other hand, the Giants would have Drew Lock pass for 178 yards and a pick while rushing for a touchdown on 65.6% completion. Yeah, 57 rushing yards. Tyrone Tracy Jr. would have 32 rushing yards on 9 carries. Pretty atrocious if you ask me. And a touchdown. Neighbors would lead with 69 yards, 8 receptions, and also 13 targets. But Theo Johnson was kind of asserting himself a little bit. Maybe that's something to watch for in just a few. 5 receptions and 54 yards for him. An uneventful game, at least what I thought about it earlier on, but actually ended up being one of the more competitive ones of the week. Granted, yes, the garbage time touchdown kind of made the optics of the entire thing look a little better for them, but still, 1-score victory. Didn't watch all of this game either when it comes to the Dolphins-Packers one. But what I can tell you is that, yeah, you knew what you were getting out of this one. Do I really have to get into a full breakdown? You knew exactly what you were getting out of this one. Team accustomed to summer-style, hotter weather plays team accustomed to colder weather. Never favors the former. That matchup will never be won by the former. Like, off the rip, you get a situation where, as I was tracking it, it is stated that this man, Malik Washington, fumbled the fucking punt and spotted the Packers free yardage. Literally. First and goal from the 9 for them. So, of course, they naturally punch it in with Jaden Reed for a touchdown. Next drive, a 5-play drive that saw them lose 3 fucking yards. Somehow, some way. Like, that's so bad. And then the Packers would follow it up with another touchdown. They were starting all hot. You had Josh Jacobs punching it in very easily. Very easily. Now, it would be detailed that Alec Ingold actually grew up in connection with the Packers or the city of Green Bay, seeing as he's from that area. And now he's playing against them on Thanksgiving. They were playing around with that narrative, and they also kind of went into it in full during halftime. While that is respectable, they probably picked the worst of times to really get into it. I don't know. Maybe there's not really a way to manage that. But you'd think that the Dolphins would want to pay that forward and actually try to get a dub or get closer to a dub to make Alec Ingold feel better about this whole experience. Instead, they just continued settling, despite the efforts by Devon Achane and even Jalen Waddle picking up a very solid conversion on fourth down for 16 yards. They still settled for a fucking field goal. Like, how even is that? The Dolphins would force the Packers into a punt before the Dolphins themselves would punt after Lucas Van Ness and Kingsley Enagbare would follow up one sack with another and force them out of a manageable conversion distance. Packers would then score yet again. Chris Brooks, I do remember Chris Brooks being on that Dolphins roster, but I just, for whatever reason, did not, I would just say, oh, why is number 30 out there for the Packers? That ended up being Chris Brooks. So I guess that was fitting. He was trying his hardest to get involved on the drive. He did a little bit, getting a 5-yard catch that pushed them into a 3rd and 2 situation before Jaden Reed would catch and run with the football for 12 yards and a touchdown. We see that the Dolphins turn the ball over on downs once more. And they would get a field goal by Brandon McManus to end off the first half. Now, yes, the Packers didn't really do much of anything in the second half. They settled for multiple field goals. I guess that's credit to the Miami defense, at least trying to tighten up a little bit. Maybe the adjustments did work, but for whatever reason, the offense still could not heat up at all. Like, they were trying to get these damn jump ball passes to fucking Devon Achane and shit. Throwing incomplete pass after incomplete pass before we get in a spot where they would get Johnny Smith involved to pick up 13 yards and then 16 yards. Jalen Waddle would also bring them into the red zone before Devon Achane would score another receiving touchdown. He is in the top 5 for receiving touchdowns amongst all running backs in the NFL. He may very well top that list even. They love those Texas routes in pseudo screenplays, man. I don't even know what to say. They would force another punt. They were down 27-11, and they would be right in Green Bay's territory once again, trying to figure this thing out. I mean, I don't know. Defense is trying out there. In fact, I mean, something that was weird, they also, at multiple points, they deployed this formation on the defensive end where their trenches were lined up with one edge rusher to the far left, and then the other 3 down linemen to the very far right on the opposite side of the center, trying to rush from an angle. I didn't get that at all. I don't know what they were aiming for, but whatever they were doing on that end was effective enough. Man. They would end up not doing anything somehow. Goal-to-go situation on their 1-yard line. And they were not able to punch it in. Then he gets sacked by Quay Walker on that 4th down. Packers get the ball back, and they manage to drive all the way down and get a field goal up. By that point, the game could have already been done, right? It was 30-11, and have 5 minutes and 6 seconds left. Not much of a chance for them to do anything, really. To the very point, they had given up 75 yards off of 13 missed tackles. And that number likely increased throughout that drive. I don't... That's just... Talk about undisciplined defense, right? That's extreme. That just cannot happen. It can't, dude. Real stuff. But after that, they would get the ball back, and a little bit of luck went their way. Tyreek Hill started to become more of a factor. And, I mean, you would have him get a touchdown off of a pass that was tipped up in the air. He managed to be in the right space at the right time, and boom. They got on the board. They did not get the 2-point conversion to bring the game down to 11 points. And the game would effectively be done. I mean, you would have the Packers punt it, and the Dolphins wouldn't. Like, they would try to score to no avail. Just not really a lot of urgency there. Certainly anticlimactic, if you ask me. Whew. I mean, you would have Josh Jacobs get himself in a territory where he had 5 straight games with more than 100 yards, which is the most for a Packers running back since 2014 Eddie Lacy. I feel like a lot of different Packers fans clicked off the second they heard Eddie Lacy, or at least they're crying and just having those internal voices in their head eating away at them, talking about some Eddie Lacy, man. Literally, if only he applied himself completely, he honestly may still be out of the league by this point, but a lot of his seasons following that would have been even more productive, man. I couldn't lie to you. Thanksgiving Day games overall were pretty hectic. I mean, I don't know. I guess they were competitive to an extent. Not necessarily this last one. But the early portion of the Giants-Cowboys game, for example, got so bad that these niggas, they made a turducken in honor of John Madden, right? And obviously they were honoring John Madden the entire day. At the beginning of the goddamn fourth quarter, they rolled out the goddamn turducken and had Tom Brady eating this shit. Everybody was joking about how he wasn't going to eat it because he's obviously on a diet and shit. The fact that you can literally take time out, though, you know what I'm saying? Do you know how disrespectful that is to the teams on the goddamn field? You know how bad you have to be to the point where they feel as though they can go into any garbage time routine they want and start chomping down on some fucking food. Like, no, bro. And then they were making all these crazy references throughout the game, bro. Tom Brady was going fucking wild with some of the words that he was choosing to talk about some of these plays, man. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Was talking about people conjoining each other at the hip and shit. Crazy shit like that, man. Like, nah. Like, that had to cease a little bit. It was getting wild out there. Raiders Chiefs. I tried to watch it in full, and I only caught glimpses of it. But I'll still state that, like, I at least got to see some of what was happening. Didn't really watch most of it, though. But I did miss something incredibly important in live time. I was tracking the game, and let's just cut to the chase, alright? The Raiders, they lived up to their word, I guess. Antonio Pierce is a man of his word. They were making it rough for the Chiefs to truly take all of the momentum in this one. They were not as effective on offense as they would like to be against this shitty-ass Raiders team. And the Raiders, at times, had enough responses to keep themselves right in the mix. A touchdown scored by Trey Tucker, in which he completely beat Justin Reed, helped them take a lead before the Chiefs took it back 19-17. Now, you would get in a spot where, after a few punts, Daniel Carlson this time would miss a field goal from 58 yards out. They still had a chance because their defense was just playing the Chiefs that hard. And they were driving. Brock Bowers, and I'll get to this later, he was a fucking godsend for this team. I'm not gonna lie. He has been. And he is deservedly in position to not only make a Pro Bowl, but also an All-Pro team. That is not too much of a stretch to say. He's making the most of his opportunity. And when you really think about it, he is the only truly, I can't even say established. He's doing this as a rookie. You have guys like Jacoby Myers out there as an established veteran, but even then, he's never been the number one guy. He's always been more of a tertiary option on every single team he's been on. And whenever teams like the Patriots and such try to get him in positions to be a number one wide receiver, it did not really pan out, as evidenced by those Patriots seasons. How truly successful were they with that? Not at all. You need more talent surrounding Jacoby Myers in the wide receiver core for him to be truly effective in his role. If you try to give him all that room for reps, it does not really benefit your team. But he did get involved. He got them in Kansas City's territory. And Amir Abdullah would extend that. Now, we get down to 16 seconds. And they spike the ball. They get down to 3rd and 3 because they don't have a timeout. All they got to do, quite literally, is just get a snap off. And maybe complete something short that gets out of bounds, gets you a field goal. Take a second. See if you can find anything favorable that nears the boundaries. And if you can't, throw it out and then kick a field goal. The options are vast when it comes to positive outcomes from this. And yet the worst possible thing that could happen to them in that spot happened when Powers Johnson, who I believe that this is Jackson Powers Johnson, who is a rookie. I understand. But he snaps the ball before Aiden O'Connell's even ready for it. And it's lost completely. The Chiefs pick it up and win the ball game. Yes, this is Jackson Powers Johnson. Now, he's listed as guard, so maybe one can question why in the hell he was even playing at center to begin with. Very good question. Like, I do wonder if maybe one of their centers, their true centers, got hurt or something, and you had him playing out of position. But honestly, yes, it is horrible. You absolutely could not have that happen in that situation. But at the same time, when you look at that development, you mean to tell me that you are Antonio Pierce and you are granting a rookie the responsibility of playing out of position in one that he's likely never played before, in the highest stakes possible for him, quite literally to this point in his rookie season. This is the most pressure he's probably faced. And you're granting him the task of playing out of position. I just question that. If you didn't really have to do it. Like, if he didn't have to do it because one of their centers was hurt, then okay. If not, I look at that with seriously, like, just side on. Like, I really have to try to understand. I don't even think that even if I try my hardest, I probably can't. I don't know. But the Chiefs win in another very thrilling fashion, and the Raiders, with this loss, continue to sink further and further down into irrelevance as far as the season goes. They're not going to make the playoffs. Yeah. Mahomes had 306 passing yards, only 56.5% completion, touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins had 90 yards on 4 receptions, though he did have a crucial drop that I did end up finding out about in post. Travis Kelce had 68 yards on 7 receptions. Noah Gray had 4 receptions for 58, and Xavier Worthy had 5 for 54. Meanwhile, for the Raiders, like I said, Brock Bowers, 10 receptions for 140 fucking yards and a touchdown. Aiden O'Connell also had a pretty good game, all things considered. 340 passing yards on 65.7% completion and 2 touchdowns. They were literally doing everything right that they could have possibly done. 116 rushing yards on 4.6 yards a carry as well. They had the Chiefs' number for a second. All you need to do is be smarter with the football, and in the worst possible moment, it's screwed up. Random sighting here, but I guess shout out to Kaylavon Chason, who had a tackle for loss and 1.5 sacks in this ballgame. Like, oh, okay. I mean, hey, I guess that's something. But yeah, Chiefs win it 19-17. Cry. They have continued to further cement their clinching status in the AFC with this victory. Alright, let's move on to Vikings and Cardinals. Let's just put it like this. Alright, Byron Murphy Jr. was a man on revenge in this game. He was seeking revenge in this one, right? And in a sense, he did. He did. Okay? Uh Field goals, and field goals were the theme of this game right here. Truly. At every turn, every single time you saw these teams take the field for quite a while, you would see field goal after field goal after field goal. Started out the game going back and forth with field goals after you're seeing teams drop deep down into each other's territory. Arizona got into Minnesota's red zone, and so did the fucking Cardinals. But this is foreshadowing. This is how most of the game went somehow. The Cardinals would punt afterwards before Sean Murphy Bunting punched the ball straight out of Aaron Jones Sr.'s hands and gets the Cardinals in even highly exceptional field position. Minnesota's 19-yard line. You'd think they would score a touchdown. Nope, another field goal. Another fucking field goal. With help from none other than L.J. Collier. The Vikings would be forced to punt the ball yet again. Yet again, more field goal action. And more field goal action. Even with Kyler Murray doing his best to rumble around and pick up yardage, it just wasn't really enough. John Parker Romo, and Chad Ryland, for whatever reason, were just the MVPs of the game for quite a while. I don't know. I don't know, man. The Cardinals would continue their good defensive stretch. They would continue to send pressure, and it got Sam Darnold flustered enough to go incomplete on 3 straight passes. Now, John Parker Romo would miss this field goal. Cardinals would be like, okay, now we can show you with Chad Ryland somehow how to make a field goal. Putting them up 12-6. It would be, I guess shots would be taken by Murphy Jr. He would get some passes caught on him. Michael Wilson managed to fucking do it. And then he actually managed to get a little lucky and just catch a pass that got tipped up very highly. I really don't know how that was. I don't know how that happened. It was very improbable. But nonetheless, they made it happen. Trey McBride is so much of a threat that Jonathan Grenard decided to just take him out of a play, forcing Kyler Murray to pivot completely. Oh, man. Now, Kyler Murray Jr. would eventually, after being completely just derailed by Matt Wilson Sr., he would get a nice touchdown pass to Marvin Harrison Jr., putting them up with the very first touchdown of the game, 19-6. Cameron Akers would have a sighting for the Vikings somehow. And with some contributions thrown in there from Jalen Naylor and Justin Jefferson as well, it would be Johnny Munt, of all people, to cap off the ensuing touchdown drive by the Vikings. We get into the fourth quarter, and yeah. So, Byron Murphy certainly got his revenge here. I'm not very sure of what the fuck Kyler Murray was trying to do here, but he scrambles back, kind of pirouettes, and then tries to launch the ball up. He's trying to get it to Trey McBride. He completely overthrows him, and it falls straight into Byron Murphy Jr.'s hands. Do whatever you will with that, but it certainly helped the Vikings. They took that and they ran with it completely, getting another field goal to respond before the Cardinals would respond once more with another field goal of their own. Trey McBride would successfully get a catch this time. But again, this is the issue. They had yet another chance. This was their sixth possession that was in the red zone. Their sixth possession in Minnesota's red zone. Only one of them resulted in a touchdown, and the 5 others were field goals. All of them. You are not going to win games like this when you can't convert in the red zone. And promptly enough, the Vikings would respond by converting in the red zone. Justin Jefferson made enough plays to get them in range, and Aaron Jones out of the flat would catch the then potential game-winning touchdown. The Cardinals had another chance, but instead turned the ball over on downs, with him throwing another pick to Shaquille Griffin. So again, like I said, it's very simple to look at the fact that you simply whiffed on every single drive that you had. You just did not maximize the potential amount of points, even remotely. Even if you get like a couple more touchdown drops, you're probably set. But you continue to settle and settle. Granted, you may have to give your respects to the Vikings defense as well for that, but that will not fly. You're letting them, by doing that, they're going to linger around for that much time. And they surely enough came back just late, but reasonably enough to force you into a loss. Now the Cardinals are in even more danger as they have to face the Seahawks again. And they have home field advantage, but given the way the last game went, I don't think that would fare too well for y'all. This is one you wanted to have, especially when it would be detailed earlier that Kyler Murray would be in a very interesting group here. You see, there's only one other quarterback in NFL history who is averaging at least a 100 QBR and more than 7 yards per carry in an NFL season. That other player happened to be Cowboys legend Roger Staubach. Yes, Roger Staubach, of all people, was not only just serving up DOMs, he was running, he was scrambling the football. I was not familiar with that at all. I couldn't even lie to you. But to be on a list with somebody like that, that's exceptional. And yet you want to make the most out of it. You fail to here because you throw 2 picks. 68.9% completion. That can be a little misleading, alright? Because a good amount of these passes that were completed were screenplays, man. They loved to go to those tight end screens, those shorter routes. And I mean, yes, given Kyler Murray's stature, that's probably the way to go. But just keep that in mind when looking at that. He would have 260 passing yards. James Conner had 68 rushing yards on 17 carries. Trey McBride had 96 receiving yards on 12 catches. And Marvin Harrison Jr. had 5 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Michael Wilson also had 5 receptions for 55 yards. On the other hand, Sam Darnold had 2 touchdowns with 235 yards passing and all on 67.7% completion. Without factoring in Sam Darnold here, their true running backs combined for just 11 carries and just 46 yards. Justin Jefferson had 7 catches for 99 yards as well. Credit to Byron Murphy Jr., the 3 pass deflections, interception, 5 total tackles for him. So again, like I said, things went well for him by the end of it. I'll say. Moving on to the Ravens and the Eagles. And man, oh man. Can we say that this is reckoning for a lot of different people involved? I mean, yes, the Eagles, it was going to be difficult. They had Devontae Smith out. But, I mean, hell, like, I guess they were chilling. They had Will Shipley out there getting reps, too. I don't know. I mean, I guess things started out okay for the Ravens, it seemed. You had Zay Flowers get a 40-yard catch while trying his hardest to extend the play as if he was not in a spot earlier in the year where he tried to do the same thing and L'Jarius Sneed forced that fumble on him. Somebody was trailing up right behind him as well. Like, you'd think at that point you would truly learn your lesson and stop trying to do all this extra shit. But maybe that's just Zay Flowers' mentality, really. I don't know. Trying to get the ball to Mark Andrews, but it would go incomplete. And Justin Tucker would make a field goal. Foreshadowing. Right? Eagles would punt the ball, and then the Ravens would end up taking a 9-0 lead, where Mark Andrews would then go on to score a 14-yard touchdown. Ridiculousness, man. Also, I mean, credit to the Eagles in getting the guys like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. They were doing fine to start out, and Quinyon Mitchell was making some pretty good plays until he ran right into Derrick Henry and got absolutely eviscerated by him. It's just sad. Like, he didn't even have to do that to him. That's a rookie, man. Solid drive for him, but again, like I stated, Justin Tucker would miss this PAT. Things would just go haywire for them from there. I mean, there was no play here, but you had Tylan Wallace even muffing the punt here. Now, they did end up creating a milestone with this forced punt. As on the play before, Marlon Humphrey and Roquan Smith would combine for a sack. Power teamwork, right? It would be the Ravens' 51st consecutive game with at least one sack. Lamar Jackson was going through the ringer as well. Like, watching it live, there were very routine throws that he was missing by a mile. And I don't know. Maybe the Georgia Bulldog and Philly Eagle trenches just have that power, but there's no way. With the way that some of these looked, it was just looking bad, man. They would force the Eagles to punt again. Credit to the Ravens defense, because they have had a very little amount of consistency in that regard. But they were giving their offense a chance. They certainly were. Instead, they punt the ball again. With more, not going to say ineptitude, but just misfires from Lamar Jackson. That's really what it comes down to. They would be in a favorable spot after that, because Jordan Stout, guy who's supposed to have all this damn leg, clearly can't do it to save his life. Jalen Hurts would activate his vulture mode after getting Jahan Dotson a rep and Saquon Barkley involved a little bit. It was A.J. Brown time for a 9-yard gain, and then Dallas Goedert would punch it in for a 17-yard touchdown. Another punt by the Ravens was followed by another touchdown drive mounted by the Eagles. This time, right, you would have Jalen Hurts do his little vulture thing on 2 straight runs. And you knew that once he picked up this 3rd and 5, got 9 yards, and got them in a goal-to-go situation, you knew what was coming. He literally, he got so caught up in the goddamn moment that this nigga fumbled the snap and still scored the touchdown off the tush push, bro. Still. But everybody wants to complain about, oh, it's an unstoppable play. It can be stopped, and they can get in their own way sometimes. Like, it's not improbable. Go out there and just try it, man. You can't complain about, ban the play. No, we're not banning the play out here, dude. Like, no, get out of here, dude. No. It's not that. Tylan Wallace will get a 12-yard catch. I guess he's just very much bankable for at least one specific play per game or so. Lamar Jackson, with a little bit of improvisation, would get out of a very, very sticky situation. Josh Sweat had him dead to rights. He had to just run straight around him. They would get to Lamar. Lamar would get it to Zay Flowers before penalties kicked in. He attempted a deeper pass, and granted, there was a specific area where Reed Blankenship was covering that he probably needed to target on that very play. Failed to do so in a timely fashion. It closed up immediately. And Tucker was forced to settle for a 50-yard field goal. He did make this one. The game was 14-12 going into the half before he opened up the second half, even with good work being done by Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews alike. He would miss the field goal. After Lamar Jackson was sacked by none other than Zach Bond. who, again, hey, they completely, with the help of another player, just overpowered Ronnie Stanley for some reason, which shouldn't happen if you're one of the better left tackles in the league. But Ronnie Stanley has been that inconsistent. I have quite literally said this time and again, there's got to be a way for the Ravens to let him go after this season. As good as people think he can be, I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem worth it anymore to have him on this roster, man. It really does not. I will not lie. But Zach Bond, on the other hand, man, just doing exceptional work. Like, again, he needs his respect, too. He should very well get in on the NFC side when it comes to the Pro Bowl. He should be a starter. Now, I don't know about him necessarily getting a Pro Bowl nod. That could also be a stretch. There are a pretty good number of linebackers on the NFC side that they would probably opt for. But they can't sleep on what Zach Bond's been able to do this season. Even with that defensive effort and that good special teams, because later on in the same quarter, Tucker would miss another field goal. The Eagles had punts in both of their possessions in the third quarter. The Ravens would open up the fourth quarter with a punt of their own. The Eagles would then try their hardest to mount a drive. And surely enough, Saquon Barkley, by the end of it, capped it off with a 25-yard touchdown run, where he blazed past pretty much everybody. Quite literally. Marlon Humphrey and Roquan Smith were trying to tackle him, and they failed to do so. They were just left puzzled at where they needed to be. The Ravens would then turn the ball over on downs. And, hey, also, Cooper DeJean tackled Derek Henry like that also. Oh, like that's, you know how difficult that is. I'm not going to lie. Shout out Cooper DeJean, man. The cornerbacks, the white cornerbacks making a return, bruh. They are, man. This is real stuff. You can't hate. I'm not gonna hold you. I know a lot of Ravens fans in real time because I did not end up watching that specific play in the game happen live. I was occupied at that moment, particularly, but I know some people were pissed off about that. Man. Feel how you want to feel, but like, hey, at the end of the day. Hey, look, man. What can you really? How can you really hate on that? I don't know. That's not necessarily going to happen to Derrick Henry again. I very much doubt it. But you can have a player like Cooper DeJean doing that. Ooh, boy. This Eagles drive would be the Saquon Barkley drive, and Jalen Hurts would start running the ball too. Jake Elliott would make it from 35 yards out. The Ravens would get a touchdown out of vanity. Like, Isaiah likely would get it. It didn't matter by that point. It was effectively done. Yes, this 24-19 loss to the Eagles comes down to a few things. For one, when you look here, to give up some of these sacks and have all these negative plays at the wrong time certainly didn't help when it comes to the O-line and the lack of protection. But the very fact that you had Justin Tucker miss a PAT in these field goals, you, even with playing as sloppy as you did, you very much had a chance to win And for whatever reason, it did not come to be because of those things. Lamar, again, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns on 63.9% completion. Doesn't look the worst, but the missed throws certainly stood out. They were just so egregious that you literally could not overlook that. He added 79 rushing yards, while Derek Henry had 82 rushing yards on 19 carries. Zay Flowers would have 3 receptions for 74, and Mark Andrews would have 6 receptions for 67 in the aforementioned touchdown. Meanwhile, for the Eagles, Saquon Barkley with just another all-around game. 25 total touches for 117 total yards in the aforementioned rushing touchdown. Jalen Hurts with 2 total touchdowns. And again, if Jared Goff can win a game where he passes the ball just a few times and picks up only 85 yards, then Jalen Hurts can do it while only completing 57.9% of his passes and throwing for 118 yards. The most important thing is that he did not turn the ball over. He certainly protected it. That's all you can ask for. But quite literally, their whole passing offense was that of A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert, who accounted for 91 of those 118 yards and 8 of those 11 catches or passes completed on Jalen Hurts' end. That's not a game that should have been won. And yet they made it happen. Nolan Smith had a sack. Jalen Carter had a sack. Like, everybody getting involved as a team. The Eagles are, they're on this streak. And it looks like this could be very good timing for them. They just need to hold it together. Because they were in this spot to at least late November, early December last year, take full control of the NFC East and make the playoffs convincingly. They barely made it last year and faltered completely. They should be fine in this one, but you want to see it come to form, right? So they gotta tighten up on that. They do not want that to happen this season, not at all. 49ers versus Bills was, oh my gosh. Where do I even start here, right? I missed a good portion of it, and, I did try to give the 49ers, for whatever reason, some grace and see what they could pull off later in the second quarter and for the rest of the game. Nothing, absolutely nothing. James Cook was running completely wild on them. They were getting any and every single thing that they wanted for the most part. And while Christian McCaffrey would be dogging them earlier on, he eventually would be getting taken out of the ball game. Everything else went haywire after that for this goddamn team. Everything, bro. Every fucking thing. Even in the midst of that, you had another missed kick by none other than Jake Moody. Are you really surprised by that? I don't know. You shouldn't be. He ended off the half missing a fucking field goal. Because of course he did. They opened up the third quarter of the 49ers with Kyle Juszczyk fumbling the ball, which happened to be his first one in 6 fucking years. Somehow. Credit to Taylor Rapp for making the play, but what the hell? Then you get into the fourth quarter when you are trying, at the very least, to put points on the board. Purdy throws up a fucking pass that literally slips out of his hands. You get Deebo Samuel fumbling a kickoff that would follow a Josh Allen touchdown, which saw him scramble it in for 8 yards. Even with the Bills missing a kick, that didn't matter because in an earlier drive that saw the goddamn Bills go up 28-3, you had Josh Allen become the 4th ever player in NFL history to get a receiving touchdown on the same exact pass he threw. As he threw it, Amari Cooper tried to reel it in with one hand, and he was getting held up by Malik Mustafa and D. Winters before he smartly, in a very 200 IQ play, he lateraled it back to Josh Allen, and he ran straight in. Now, for whatever reason on the broadcast, you see a good play like that, normally you're just going to take it in. This nigga Chris Collinsworth, and again, I was confused as to why I didn't hear Chris Collinsworth on Thursday. It was because he was doing this game on Sunday night. This Nick has the audacity to mention some fucking Travis Kelce and the Chiefs and how they do this all the damn time. Like, damn, just take in the play. You don't even have to pull off comparisons there. You don't have to. Not to mention, too, that for Josh Allen, he would not be logged with a catch at all. He just had as a reception touchdown. No receptions. Now, they would, the 49ers, their only saving grace was Isaac Grando getting in off of some witchcraft where you had him in the backfield with fucking Ricky Pearsall on Brock Purdy's right side. Well, his left side, rather. He motioned out to the right side as Grando went left, and boom, bada bing, they got in. And that still didn't do anything for them, but, whatever, man. They had players as well just slipping on the goddamn field. Ricky Pearsall broke his own goddamn ankles. Everybody was slipping and sliding everywhere. But again, we can't even make the joke that team accustomed to hot weather falters against team who is accustomed to cold weather, because the 49ers have won high stakes ball games in cold weather before. Over the past few years in this decade, we've seen it. So I really don't know what to say here. And I can't necessarily put it all on one player here. I mean, yes, Fred Warner was absolutely getting exposed this game, by the way. But, I mean, yes, you're severely missing Nick Bosa. You're severely missing Trent Williams. You now severely miss Christian McCaffrey at this point. There's a lot going on collectively. I think that the 49ers, they are, again, their record now, they still have a chance, but, their odds are so slim right now. There's still a chance, but I don't know. I feel like that entire locker room, for whatever reason, is just unmotivated. I think is what it really comes down to. When you have a game like this going on, it's not a great reflection of where the team is at. And granted, a lot of the players that have been out have been dealing with highly personal matters. So maybe that has something to do with it as well. I guess I may as well just mention it here. Again, like I mentioned before, you have Charvarius Ward missing the previous game because of the unfortunate passing of his daughter. And then you have Trent Williams coming out and stating that he and his wife had to deal with a miscarriage and a stillborn child. So he missed the game with that. I think that would derail a lot of the, like, I guess, motivation in any locker room. I don't know. I think that their focus is on a lot outside of football right now. They're dealing with some heavy shit in there. So I don't know. I think, you do get lost in that fact sometimes as a, like, general or even the hardcore fans. You get lost in that fact sometimes, right? But there's always a lot more outside of football that is going on, obviously. These players have their own personal lives and struggles that they are still dealing with, even as players, some of whom may be getting paid handsomely. And some of whom, in terms of lower-end players, do not get paid as much. They are barely getting by, but they're still going out trying to do the best they can to play the game they love. And, it does not always, just... The progress isn't always that linear to just get in the league, have a somewhat successful career, get handsomely compensated. Life will happen. So I guess I kind of understand. I totally understand. So we'll outline that mostly. There's always more going on. It's not truly about the game. With that being said, they, again, when it comes to it, they do still have a semblance of a chance. They are going to have to go on a complete and total turnaround very quickly. There is not that much time left. But the NFC is so very up for grabs. So, anything is truly possible at this point of time. As for the Bills, they managed to clinch their division and playoff berth. Simple as that. I was initially thinking that they needed at least one more win to do it, but with the fact that they already beat the Dolphins multiple times and have a pretty good record against their own division, they probably didn't need too much room to work with there. Moving on to the Browns versus the Broncos. This Monday Night Football game was surprisingly good, I guess, depending on who you ask. Though it did start out with a Bo Nix incompletion, with this nigga literally just throwing it in the fucking dirt. That could have been a sign for so much more, but no, the game was actually very good. Right? They punted, and the Browns would start driving with Jameis Winston being completely locked in with Jerry Jeudy. He would get a 44-yard catch, foreshadowing, right? Nick Chubb be trucking shit out of Levi Wallace, who was playing because Riley Moss was out for this game with injury. They would get into Denver's territory, and on fourth down, Dustin Hopkins would miss goddamn field goal, because of course he did. Oh my gosh. It's fucking crazy, man. You just cannot continue to do this, bro. It's tough because, on the play before, Njoku was wide open and Winston kind of overshot him a little bit. Now, Cortland Sutton would be an easy target for Bo Nix to look for. He went to him on 2nd and 6, even though it was thrown incomplete. He followed that up with getting a 17-yard pass to him. Of course, Martin Emerson Jr. was the man covering him. So you could imagine how easy that was for Cortland Sutton. Truly. Right? McLaughlin as well was very much... I don't even know what to describe it as, but he had himself quite the game. He was getting highly aggressive for someone with that kind of stature, man. He was fucking taking souls out there. Still, it would be Javonte Williams who would punch in the touchdown on 3rd and goal from the 2-yard line for them. I thought that the Browns would be done with all of their efforts the second I saw Kadarius Toney enter the ball game and get a run for 3 yards in which he almost lost the fucking ball. And I thought they were cooked. I thought they were done. But Elijah Moore wouldn't let them die. He would get a 44-yard catch that would bring them into Denver's red zone before fucking David Njoku mossed the shit out of fucking Broncos defense, especially, in that situation. Like, he is literally one of the best in the league right now. I don't think there's a single doubt about that. It's been a quieter season for him compared to his other ones. But was a great way to cap off this drive. The same drive in which he would redeem himself and his chemistry with Jameis Winston after getting the catch on Cody Barton, of all people. Shout out to former Seahawk Cody Barton. Foreshadowing. They pan the camera to a fucking feed of Zach Zinter moving, and a lot of emotions got a lot of tensions rose up inside of me, bro. And afterwards, though, you get punts by both teams before you would get, some very good work from none other than Ronnie Hillman as well in the midst of all this. But on this drive here, again, Bo Nix is like quite the guy himself. We know that Jameis Winston can be, but Bo Nix, for a good portion of the night, I swear to you, he was literally just throwing up shit. So when he tried to throw the ball up to fucking tried to get it over the middle, and it was very smartly deflected up by Denzel Ward. It would be caught by Greg Newsome II. They would drop down from there and settle for a field goal. At least Dustin Hopkins was making them this time. More punts ensued before the Broncos had a response of their own. Now, Rodney McLeod Jr. was trying to get active and also get revenge against one of his former NFL teams. That still was not enough. Michael Burton, of all people, would score the touchdown to put them ahead. And then, yes, this is how we know that Jameis Winston is quite the guy. They would get the ball. They would be on Denver's 29-yard line, and he would throw the ball straight into the working Nick Bonitto's hands. He would return it for a 71-yard pick six. Now, Bonitto had been balling all season long, I was not completely game to it. But he decided to space out in coverage and account for Njoku. He baited Jameis Winston completely into throwing that ball. He was backed off so far, and Jameis Winston was just staring down his read. So naturally, Nick Bonito decided to just creep up, and then boom, explode. He got there right in time, and he was gone, out of there. Now he would respond by getting the Browns on a 71-yard drive, 70-yard drive, on 11 plays that saw Njoku cap it off once again with a touchdown of his own. And it would go into the half with the Broncos having a 21-17 lead. Like, the Broncos, at that specific point, they had only less than half of the yardage that the Browns picked up throughout the entire first half. There's no way that they should have had a lead like that, and yet stupid mistakes gave them the edge. The Browns would open the second half with punting the ball, before Greg Newsome II would force a 3-and-out as well. Another punt from the Browns gave the Broncos the ball back on their own 8-yard line on 3rd and 11 with Denzel Ward in coverage on the back half, trying to work it just in time. Bo Nix actually unleashed a fucking dot. He got right past Denzel Ward, right over his head into the streaking Marvin Mims Jr.'s hands. And he was gone for a 93-yard touchdown. Right after that, on a one-play sequence, Jerry Jeudy would get a 70-yard touchdown catch against his former team. And the 2-point conversion as he cooked up none other than Levi Wallace. There's a reason why he was not with the Bills anymore. As they displayed on a graphic, the Browns had a time attacking Levi Wallace in this game solely. They had a day with him out there guarding whichever receiver he was covering. Because, bruh, ooh, man. Now, the Broncos would end off the third quarter going up 31-25 with another field goal. Browns would punt the ball again as Nick Bonito just would not quit. He would not. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't fucking do it, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. Now, the Broncos and Bo Nix would do exactly what I thought he was going to do. He chucked up some more dumb shit, trying to get the damn pass to Marvin Mims Jr., who literally stands at, 5'10", I believe? He tried to test Denzel Ward, the Warden, deep in fucking coverage. He was right on his ass this time. And as he's trying to break in with Denzel Ward nearly running the damn route for him, Bo Nix still decides to throw the ball up all the way down to Cleveland's 28-yard line. And Denzel Ward boxes his ass out, jump ball, easy interception for him. The Browns then proceed to score a touchdown drive. Proceed to have a touchdown drive from there on. Starting off with Jerry Jeudy eclipsing the 200-yard mark in what would be his very best game as a pro and one of the more prolific wide receiver performances from this season. Nick Chubb would help them go ahead on a reception touchdown. The Broncos were trying to take off as much time as they possibly could, and granted, by the time they were done, they got it down to 2 minutes and 57 seconds with a Will Lutz field goal taking them up by 2. Jameis Winston is a guy. He's a guy. With a minute and 59 seconds left, after managing to get a beautiful pass to Elijah Moore, he decided to test him again on the out route, and he threw a pick 6 to McMillan for what could be the game-sealing touchdown. Still, with some help, things were not necessarily out of the realm of their possibility. They decided smartly to attack Chris Abrams' drain on a deep route to Michael Woods II that pushed them into a goal-to-go situation with 44 seconds left, 2 timeouts. That was looking very favorable. They could maybe get a touchdown here, get a 2-point conversion. An onside kick is difficult, but who really knows, right? You'd still at least be in position to test it out if you just get this. And instead, they don't, because Cody motherfucking Barton gets probably the easiest interception of his life. Like, quite literally, he is Dr. Jekyll. He is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He just is, man. Is duality of man, dual personalities. Look, bro. He threw it straight to him with no arc on the pass whatsoever. Straight into the man's fucking hands. Any person would be able to catch it. Any person. Too bad that it was not one of the players on your team because they were behind Cody Barton. You've got to throw it with some loft and get it over him a little bit. It's a difficult pass because granted Barton could still jump up and maybe deflect it, get it into surrounding Broncos' hands. All I'm saying is, like, damn, like you made it so easy for him. And he nearly got a pick 6 as well before Jerry Jeudy just got completely discontent and threw his ass to the ground. So that ended the game 41-32. Again, quite the interesting one. But all the same, you still saw a lot of ineptitude from the quarterback position. Now, like Jameis Winston completed only 58.6% of his passes. 3 picks, yes, 2 of them were pick 6s. That completely changed the complexion of this ballgame. Keep that in mind. He also threw for 4 touchdowns and set a Browns franchise record in passing yards with 497. Just emotional highs and lows for every single Browns fan out there. Emotional highs and lows. Like, what kind of shit? But this is, in essence, exactly what Jameis Winston loves to do. This is the quintessential, the magnum opus of Jameis Winston gameplay. Right? This is what you kind of come to expect at this point. This is a man who literally, with a damn season that saw him throw 33 touchdowns and 30 interceptions, you know this nigga doesn't give a fuck about where he is putting goddamn ball at. And sometimes that can work for you because you need that aggressiveness to exploit some tight windows. But it also will hurt you when you are trying to force things that simply aren't there. Like the out route was shaded completely by McMillan. He had the perfect coverage on it, and you decide to just throw it straight up. Once again, you have to throw that with a great amount of lead. A great amount of loft on that pass. You have to direct that completely to the sideline and over McMillan for Moore to even have a chance to get that ball. He stood no chance. So what were you really expecting to do? Only 77 rushing yards as a unit and 3.3 yards per carry. Jerry Jeudy, again, career game, 9 receptions for 235 yards and a touchdown. It is the most receiving yards all time by a receiver who's playing their former team. The most over guys like Terrell Owens against, I believe, the Eagles with the Cowboys, and Irving Fryar with the Dolphins against the Patriots in 1994. Elijah Moore also had himself a game somehow. 8 receptions for 111 yards. Njoku had 2 touchdown catches on 9 receptions for 52 yards. And Michael Woods II also had 3 receptions for 43 yards randomly. But they did help in some cases. On the other hand, for the Broncos, Bo Nix as well. I mean, bro, what the fuck? Like 51.4% of his passes were completed. And a touchdown, but 2 picks as well. McLaughlin had 84 yards rushing by himself, but it still was not enough. Because you want to know the craziest thing as well, with the Cowboys breaking theirs, they weren't even the team who was dealing with such inept play at the running back position for the longest time. The Broncos came into the game with a streak of 29 consecutive games without a 100-yard rusher, and the Browns had a streak of 19. That is extended for both teams, giving the Broncos a tally of 30 straight, by far the longest active streak in the league, and now the Browns have 20. And they were so close too, but to no avail. Marvin Mims Jr., again, 105 yards total on 3 catches in the aforementioned touchdown. Courtland Sutton had 102 receiving yards on 6 catches. No other receiver on the squad had over 30. The next most prolific receiver was Troy Franklin with only 28 yards receiving on 2 catches. Full Jameis Winston experience, full Bo Nix experience. When those elements clash, oh boy. When those fucking elements clash. But look, we'll move on into the Sunday action. Moving on to Jackson's Jaguars. The biggest headline from this one is obviously the hit that Azeez Al-Shaair had on Trevor Lawrence, and I saw it. It was absolutely dirty, absolutely disgusting. And I will get to the developments for both of those players in a later segment. They tie into each other, obviously. They were both involved in the play. That much is true. Still, you would think that with Trevor Lawrence out of the game, and with the Texans being the superior team anyways, you think that this would have been smooth sailing for them, right? No. Instead, whether it was the, garbage time touchdowns or shit like that, they only managed to win this game by 3 fucking points. A Brian Thomas touchdown catch and Parker Washington, who had a day, by the way, 2-point conversion, got them within 3 fucking points before the Texans closed it out and won the game 23-20. I don't know what to make of that. Is you don't score your first touchdown up until 8 minutes left in the third quarter. Before that, you're settling for punts and field goals. How are you struggling like that against an inferior opponent? The Jaguars' defense can be sneaky good at times. But they are, by all intents and purposes, highly inferior. There's just no way that happened. And I don't know about these slow starts, man. Because the Texans have had slow starts that have completely killed them by the end of multiple games. They are very highly lucky that the Jaguars are as inept as they are. Because if you're playing a different team and you're starting off that slow, you probably do not stand as much of a chance. At least if your defense isn't at least responding in a respectable way, which they did in this game. Credit to them for the most part. But still, that's just a horrible look. Even with it, coming in garbage time, maybe, there's no shot that this game should have been as close as it was. 242 yards passing and a touchdown on 64.7% completion for C.J. Stroud. Joe Mixon added 101 rushing yards on the ground with a touchdown run. Nico Collins had 8 receptions for 119 yards, and Dalton Schultz had the only touchdown of the ball, the only passing touchdown of the ball game for them, on 61 yards catching. No other receiver for them had over 25 yards. Tank Dell was the next most prolific receiver with 23 only. Eric Stingley Jr. would have a pick and 3 pass deflections with 2 tackles as well. On the Jaguars side, again, Mac Jones managed to step in and actually do this. 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, 62.5% completion. What? No, that should not be happening at all. 97 total rushing yards for the Jaguars, but it wasn't even remotely effective as it should have been. Just 3.7 yards a carry. Very lackluster in that department. Again, Parker Washington, 6 catches, 103 yards for him, and the touchdown as well. Very strange. Very, very strange. I did not see that coming at all. Brian Thomas Jr. would also have 4 receptions for 76 yards and a touchdown of his own. Texans just got to tighten it up, man. But, again, they're still in the very mix of the playoff race. The Jags are far out of it. If they weren't already, that would certainly do it. The battle of teams of all teams. Chargers versus Falcons here. Boy, there is a great chance for them to do some crazy shit. Either the Chargers were going to Charger or the Falcons were going to Falcon, ultimately. And, it really was just a matter of who was going to be more egregious in terms of doing it. Yes, you have Younghoe Koo still dealing with missing kicks and everything like that. But, it's literally... I don't even need to go into the fullest of breakdowns here. All I can say is that this is the epitome of a pissing contest. Epitome of a pissing contest right here. Yes, Bijan Robinson with punching in for a rushing touchdown for the Falcons. Their only touchdown of the game, by the way. Man. From there on, it was fucking chaos. Picked by Cousins. Led to another field goal by Cameron Dicker, the kicker. Wasted possession into another field goal for the Chargers. And then another wasted possession by the Falcons. Before the Chargers started wasting possessions. And then the Falcons started kicking field goals. And then another wasted possession for the Chargers before Kirk Cousins struck again. Threw a clean pick 6 to the rookie Terheap Still. And they picked up the 2-point conversion to effectively seal the game. Maybe? Because while the Falcons would score a field goal to end off the third quarter. Both teams spent the fourth quarter just doing absolute bullshit. Their best efforts to try to lose the ball game. Chargers turned the ball over on downs with J.K. Scott having a fake punt thrown to some random ass fucking player. And then in Chargers territory with favorable field position, this nigga Kirk Cousins throws a fucking pick to Marcus May, who I didn't even know was with the Chargers at this point. Literally, deep in their red zone. They got as deep as their 9-yard line. And you mean to tell me that you couldn't get at least points on the board? No. Just embarrassing, dude. The Chargers would punt it again before the Falcons would mount another drive that saw them get into Chargers territory. And this time, Derwin James got the better of his ass and picked them off again. Like, it's not even a primetime ball game, and this man, Kirk Cousins, has completely shifted the narrative around him again in the most negative way possible. Like, sure, he started off the season doing a little better in primetime, but now you're losing winnable ball games in time slates that are not primetime. He has not thrown a touchdown in 3 straight games. Completed only 61.5% of his passes in this one for 245 yards and 4 picks. With a 40 QBR, you single-handedly lost them this game. You single-handedly. Yes. Would it have been better if Younghoe Koo made the field goal to open things up? I mean, sure. But clearly, despite that, it was still a close ball game that you had every single chance left, right, down, up, center, back. Every single approach possible to win this goddamn thing, and you couldn't make it happen. The Chargers had no offensive touchdowns. Think about that. They had no offensive touchdowns in this game. Defense did every single thing they were supposed to fucking do. You mean to tell me that this is the second time this season you lose to a team who doesn't score a single offensive touchdown? That would be the Steelers game to open up the season, by the way. That's bullshit. 147 yards for Justin Herbert on 69.6% completion. 117 of those went to the rook, Lab McConkey. Shout out Lab McConkey, by the way. But you're holding an offense to that. As a defense, you are very content with what you've done. You're hoping that the quarterback can actually lead the offense to doing something productive. And he failed at his job in this one. Quite simple. Completely flopped it. Moving on to the Steelers and Bengals. An AFC North battle that saw absolutely little defense played. I mean, there were some, don't get me wrong, there were some defensive touchdowns, and there were very fortunate plays for the defense. You had Cameron Taylor-Britt get a pick 6 on Russell Wilson early before they would respond with a George Pickens touchdown catch, because them niggas is still locked in. You know what I'm saying? But look, man, they were fighting. They were completely fighting, man. Now, Preston Smith would actually recover a fumble from very wacky what I'm seeing here. You get TJ Watt forcing a fumble on Joe Burrow, and then Peyton Wilson picks it up, fumbles, and then Preston Smith picks it up. They would get a field goal on the ensuing drive, and then get another one later in the second quarter to take it to the half, before he got his field goal blocked by Joseph Asai. Wow. All right. Well, they would shorten the lead to 3 by getting a field goal of their own, prior to Russell Wilson throwing a dime across his body to Pat Fryar for a 25-yard touchdown. Diontae Jackson would get a pick on Joe Burrow, and then a fumble would be forced on Joe Burrow that led to a scoop 6 by by Peyton Wilson. It was forced by Nate Herbig, and that likely would have sealed the game if not for the fact that the Bengals offense is kind of fucking good, if you couldn't already tell. T. Higgins would get a touchdown, and Andre Yoshivas would get another touchdown. While it seemed like garbage time, there was still a chance to make something of note happen. And yet, because they smartly decided to use all of their timeouts, the second they picked up a first down in this one, it was going to be a wrap. Justin Fields would once again close out a game with his legs. Yeah, Russell Wilson would take victory formation, kneel it out, give the Bengals an L, 6-point L. Shit keep on going and rolling. They keep on riding. It don't fucking stop. It don't stop, bruh. It don't stop, man. Like, y'all gotta stop playing with Russ, bruh. Y'all got to stop playing with Russ. Just like, if you thought he was washed, I'm telling you, you're delusional as shit. You gotta stop hating, bro. You gotta stop talking, man. Let's fucking ride. This game would be his very best since his days in Seattle. 414 yards, 3 touchdowns, and the aforementioned pick on 76.3% completion, 29 out of 38 passes. Elite fucking game. Like, yes, the pick was probably horrendous, but outside of that, he played as great of a game as he possibly could have. And they needed every bit of it, too, judging by how close things actually got. They managed to get over 100 yards rushing as a team as well, with 110 on 4.2 yards per carry. Keep in mind that all of this was being done with him getting at least one pass completed to 10 different wide receivers. George Pickens would obviously lead the way with 74 yards, and Pat Freiermuth also got 68. But Jalen Warren also got a catch, 4 catches. Najee Harris, 6. Van Jefferson with his lone 43-yard catch. Cordero Patterson getting active for the first time in quite a while, getting 3 for 37. Calvin Austin, the third, getting 29 yards and a touchdown. Ben Skoranek, for some reason, getting a 23-yard catch. Michael Pruitt getting 2 catches for 21 yards. And Darnell Washington bringing in his only target of 10 yards receiving. Cameron Hayward would have 2 tackles for loss and a sack in the game. Meanwhile, Cameron Sutton would have 2 pass deflections. Peyton Wilson had the aforementioned scoop 6. And Nate Herbig was certainly a force in this game as well. On the other end, Joe Burrow threw only 1 interception. Also had 3 touchdowns. Also with more than 73.0% completion. He had 73%, well 73.7%. 309 passing yards. Like, what more does he really have to do, bruh? The Bengals have almost no more margin for error. Like, they would have to win out. They would have to win out at this point. And even that may not necessarily grant them enough of a chance to get in. Because their defense has completely sunk them. Time and time and time a fucking again. One of the worst units in the goddamn league. They just continue to sell them. And it is really rough to see as well. Like, this would probably go down as one of Joe Burrow's better seasons. To be completely honest. So I was like, how are you just wasting that at every turn? Like, it can't be that hard to legitimately start guarding up your man, right? Like, quite literally. When you take into account that they're the fifth most prolific offense in the league, the Bengals, in terms of points. Like, that's just such a complete waste. They are a top 10 offense in yardage. And in terms of passing, they are tops. Now, Seattle is, obviously, they were top for a while. They're second. But that's literally how deep this shit goes, right? You are in that territory. But when it comes to defense, when it comes to the fucking defense, you are bottom 6 in yards. And in terms of points, it's drastic. It's drastic. The only defense worse than you in terms of points allowed per game would be the Panthers. The Panthers, man. And because of that ineptitude, you may likely not make the playoffs. Chase Brown had 12 rushes for 70 yards and a touchdown. Jamar Chase had 6 receptions for 86 yards and a touchdown. T. Higgins had 5 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown, while Mike Gesicki added 5 receptions for 3 yards. Moving on to the Colts and the Patriots. All I'm going to say for this one is that we still saw a lot of ineptitude from Anthony Richardson, but at the same time, with him activating more of that ability in the run, that won them the game. It quite literally won them the game. And he managed to, at the right time, make the right reads. That pass to Alec Pierce to get them within 1 was beautiful, all things considered. And then, right after that, you follow that up with him getting aggressive, running it straight up the gut for a 2-point conversion, gutsy as it may be, to win the game. Good call by Shane Steichen as well to be that aggressive, even. For him to have that kind of faith in Anthony Richardson to allow him to call his own shot there does show volumes. Especially when just a few weeks ago everybody was clamoring for him to be off the team or just give up on the Anthony Richardson experiment completely. Nah. There's something there still. There is totally something still there that they are willing to explore when it comes to Anthony Richardson. And it paid off for them here. Now, even then, Joey Slye managed to get close as hell to making a 68-yarder. He was only a few yards off. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that had a chance. In a season where Justin Tucker's already been going through it, you mean to tell me that you're gonna fucking have him lose his mantle as the most accurate kicker in history to Eddie Pinheiro, and then also have Joey Slye become the record-setting kicker to make the longest field goal in NFL history. Like, ooh, yeah, no. Like, this is the same man who missed a chip shot field goal earlier in the fucking game, bro. Like, keep that in mind. This nigga missed from 25 yards out. What are you talking about? He gonna make a 68-yarder and break Justin Tucker's record. That would have been, man, that would have been rough for a lot of people. We really might have known at that point that Justin Tucker could be completely cooked if that were to have gone down that way. But it didn't. Colts win this game 25-24. Again, Anthony Richardson getting away with completing just 50% of his passes. But he had 2 touchdowns, including the, not go ahead, but, put them in position to go ahead. We'll say that. And 2 picks. He added the touchdown ground earlier with 48 yards, while Jonathan Taylor had 96 yards rushing on 25 carries. Not a lot of receiving work, but once again, when the time came to make those things happen, stepped up to the plate. You can't ask for much more than that. You really can't. Meanwhile, for the Patriots, they have been mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. If you couldn't already tell by this point, it just gets worse for them over there. A touchdown and an interception on 238 yards passing, an 80% completion for Drake May. Again, another week where you're seeing flashes and it's not totally coming together. What I will say is that this is their best collective rushing game in a while. As a team, they ran for 200 total yards and a touchdown. Antonio Gibson had 62 and a touchdown. Ramondre Stevenson had 73 yards rushing, and Drake May added 59 to go along with Kendrick Bourne picking up 6, probably on a reverse or something. Hunter Henry had 75 yards receiving and on 7 receptions. And Austin Hooper added a receiving touchdown in the mix on 42 yards receiving with 4 receptions. Moving on to Titans Commanders, there ain't much to write home about here, bro. We knew what was going on. It's the same story. Well, not the exact same story, but you can get an idea, right? You had the Titans get a little more competitive with the Commanders, even though at a point they were up 28-0 after a touchdown score by Terry McLaurin. Who else but the Ohio State man? Who else? Then you had, Zane Gonzalez, right? Yeah, you had Zane Gonzalez miss a field goal. That's pretty typical, actually. That's not totally surprising, man. Like, I can't really be surprised by that, right? This is Zane Gonzalez we're talking about. But look, they would get a touchdown. Nick Westbrook and Keenan for some reason. I don't know. They would get the game within 15 before the scoring onslaught just continued for the Commanders. And by that point, yeah, it stood no chance. 42-19 win for them in a game that saw Washington control possession for over 40 minutes. Run 27 more plays. Gain almost double the yardage. Average 6 yards a play. Convert proficiently in the red zone on 71% of their drives that landed there. 9 of 14 on third down. Less penalties. Just a cleaner, much cleaner game for the Commanders, aside from the one interception that was thrown. Jaden Daniels would have that interception, but also 206 passing yards and 3 touchdowns on 83.3% complete. Just, that is insane work. Terry McLaurin would have 8 catches for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Zach Ertz also added 1, despite him and De'Ami Brown being tied for the next best wide receivers in terms of yardage with 35 each. Like I said, I did not think I would ever see the day that a running back like Chris Rodriguez Jr., who I still have no idea how he's still in the league at this point, would outrush Derrick Henry on the same day, and he was able to. Whereas Derrick Henry picked up only 82 rushing yards, Chris Rodriguez Jr. managed to pick up 94 and a touchdown. Brian Robinson Jr. had 103 and a touchdown on 16 carries. McNichols had 32, and Jaden Daniels had 34 and a touchdown run. They collectively ran for 267 yards and 3 touchdowns on almost 6 yards of fucking pop. Their rushing attack is very fucking solid, if I do say so myself. Like, man, you really can't make that up. And, I mean, when you get into a spot where you're playing postseason football, the team as a whole is still, like, relatively young, learning how they can best gel together. But it may offer a little bit of promise because when it comes down to playoff football, you're looking into, for some teams, your mentality is to control the ball. When you rank as the 3rd best rushing attack in the league, and the 2nd best in the NFC, depending on who they match against, because they could face a really damn good rushing defense, and they certainly have done that, and we've seen them struggle in those matchups. So, anything can really happen, but if that is consistent enough, then that does show some promise there, some sliver of promise. Moving on to the Bucs and Panthers. Yet again, Bryce Young, numbers aside, had them in position to win a ball game. He led a game-tying touchdown drive. What the fuck? Well, go-ahead touchdown drive, if not for... Yeah, right. Adam Thielen was turning back the clock, I guess you can say. I mean, literally, he turning back the clock, got a clutch touchdown there. But then the defense would allow the Bucs to get in field goal range for Chase McLaughlin to kick the game-time field goal to send it in overtime. This is the same kicker that would miss the field goal to open up overtime for the Bucs. The Panthers were looking like they could close it out after Adam Thielen came down with a beautiful 16-yard conversion on 3rd down on the sideline to push them into Tampa Bay's 40. But the Bucs said they weren't just done yet. Anthony Nelson of the Bucs forced Chuba Hubbard to fumble the ball. Craziness. And Yaya Diaby would recover it, giving the Bucs the ball back, allowing Rachaad White to make a play somehow, and the game was over as McLaughlin would kick in the chip shot field goal. Close it out for them from there. Really tough stuff. Like, yes, again, 26 of 46 passing for only 298 yards sounds drastic, but quite literally, when he made the plays he needed to make, man. He did everything right when it came down to it, when you really look at it. It was for the taking, and Chuba Hubbard just completely, with his 12 rushes and 43 yards, not to mention, and that fumble, sold it. I guess that kind of killed the Panthers overall, though. They couldn't run the football to save their lives. 78 rushing yards on 3.7 yards per carry. Embarrassing. Adam Thielen had 8 for 99, as I mentioned. He had the touchdown as well to send them into overtime. Tommy Tremble, for whatever reason, had 5 receptions for 77 yards. Xavier Leggett had 4 catches for 53 yards. Do I acknowledge the fact that Josie Jewell had a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and 10 tackles? Like, what? I don't know about all that shit. Alright, on the Bucs side of things, Baker Mayfield. Touchdown and 2 picks. 235 yards passing by himself on 63.6% completion. But that's okay because as a unit, the Bucs rushing attack combined for 39 carries, more than 6 yards a pop, and 236 total yards with a touchdown to keep the Panthers defense honest. Aided mostly by Bucky Irving. Forget Rachaad White's 38-yard run. Bucky Irving is the RB1 in that fucking system. 25 carries, 152 yards for him. Put the team on his motherfucking back when all else failed. Now, that's not to mention that, hey, Mike Evans got over 100 yards. He's still very much on track to get over 1,000. Finishing this game with 118 yards and a touchdown on 8 catches. Very solid output for him. Rams, Saints. Derek Carr's ass, man. He's ass, bro. And it's too bad for him that Taysom Hill had to get taken out of the game because they have no other means of finding a way to win when he's not on the football field. They quite literally have nothing else. Even if you get moments where it may seem like it. Like your only damn touchdown drive came on a Marquez Valdes-Scantling touchdown catch from 28 yards out and a 2-point conversion from Dante fucking Pettis. You're really missing Chris Olave. You're missing Chris Olave, bro. As well. Like, what the fuck? It shouldn't happen. Like, who even is this? You got Foster Moreau getting receptions and shit. I'm not even familiar with who Kevin Austin Jr. is. He's coming in, getting 3 catches for 31 yards, and as I click to see who he is, it just states that he got reverted back to the practice squad. Yes, I will admit, the Saints are a little depleted, but that doesn't excuse the fact that you've dropped all these games in a fucking row before you magically won against the Browns with the help of Taysom Hill. That's not an excuse for you being this bad. Derek Carr has effectively taken all the joy and liveliness out of Saints fans. Y'all really thought after the first couple of weeks that it was going to be smooth sailing. It has not been. Not at all. Like, yes, Kubiak as well. Clint Kubiak, the OC, very hot start for him as well. I don't know whether it's what he's doing with some of his play calling or whether it is the execution that is just that terrible right now, but yeah. Growing pains for a first-year offensive coordinator in that system. Maybe that can be understood. But I don't know. Like, the Saints are a lost cause. The Saints are a lost cause. Like, quite literally. Still, they had a chance after Pukanakwa got a 7-yard touchdown catch. And it ends with Derek Carr just doing Derek Carr shit, man. literally tries to throw the damn pass, and it gets fucking batted down by Jared Verse, bro. Anticlimactic ass shit. Like, literally. .9% completion for him. 184 yards passing and only one touchdown pass. Alvin Kamara's career is getting wasted in this team. It's getting wasted, man. Like, I don't even know. Like, 23 rushes for 112 yards per him, okay? Why the hell does he have 4 receptions and fucking 7 yards? Like, that is literally some fucking ploy by Derek Carr to get his fucking completion percentage. What? What? Like, what the fuck is 1.8 yards a catch going to do for any team trying to seriously go out there and win a ball game? Please, I need to understand that, man. How? How is that possible? You'd want to be getting Alvin Kamara in more favorable spots to actually catch and run with the football afterwards, because you've seen what he's capable of when he gets the ball in space and is able to run after the catch. The Cowboys would know about it. The Packers would know about it. Y'all don't remember that goddamn touchdown catch he had against them those years ago? Where he quite literally had the most patient running imaginable and got past the entire defense. You've seen that. That's your team. That's your leading. You know the film. And you're trying to treat him like he's like, what? Like, come on, man. That's not a winning formula. Taysom Hill, again, would be taken out, but led with 5 receptions for 37 yards. And then Juwan Johnson had 5 for 36. Matthew Stafford had 183 passing yards himself. Quite literally, do I dare say mid-off? Do I dare say that? I'm not going to, like... 2 touchdown passes for him, though. Kyron Williams had 104 rushing yards on 15 carries and a touchdown. And I'm not even going to mention that other guy, but I guess he had 8 rushes and 42 yards. Ooh, whatever. 5 receptions and 56 yards for Puginakla and a touchdown. Marcus Robinson also had 2 receptions for 49 yards and a touchdown. That's how you shake back from what happened last Sunday. That's exactly how you do it, man. But as far as all the games go, that is everything. So we'll just get into the developments from here. You've heard about this already, unless you're completely living under a rock, that Matt Eberflus was fired after the Thanksgiving Day game on Friday. And Thomas Brown will assume the position of interim. It was probably written in the cards, bruh. They should have done it to start out. They should have done it way before the season even got started. Way before you even get to the draft and know that you're going to get Caleb Williams. You should not have retained this man, to be honest. His record in one-score games should have told you all that you needed to know as a franchise. Most of his losses, which I believe would stand at 20 with the loss there, came in one-score fucking ball games. He can't close the ball game to save his life. And with that display on Thanksgiving Day on national television with the entire world watching, because I will sneak this in as well to talk about this, they detailed a report which stated that The average viewership between all three games on that fucking day was 34.3 million. Everybody was watching that fucking game. And you pulled off that shit live? Oh yeah, no, they could not. They never in their history fired a coach through the middle of a season. They had no choice after that. They had absolutely no fucking choice. I mean, that is unacceptable work. Like, what was that supposed to be? And yes, there could be multiple people at fault. I'm sure there are players on the field who very much could have called for a timeout as well. It is also tough that you have your guy in Caleb Williams getting all rattled like that in such a huge moment, but like, damn. If you see that going on, and you recognize after a little bit that he is too frantic in his actions right now, to the point where he's not going to call a timeout, you just do it. There's really no excuse here. And I know there was somebody around him screaming, begging for him to call the goddamn timeout. But you let it run all the way down to 6 seconds. And then just throw up a fucking waste of a play, man. So they could not. They could not do it. It would be detailed that James Conner would sign a 2-year, $19 million extension with the Arizona Cardinals. As far as his career with them goes to this point, it's been relatively successful for him. I mean, from what I'm seeing here, this season, it has been relatively successful. However, this year seems like it could have been a slightly down year for him. I mean, because there's almost no shot he's going for that amount of yardage in one game. But by his 13th game last season, he finished with 1,040. It would take him a little more to eclipse that mark here. But it's still a solid investment, because he has been nothing but consistent. And that's really all you can ask for in some cases. So I can respect that move. The Jaguars also signed Walker Little to a 3-year, $45 million contract extension. One of the developments that I found in the week would be that every single game from Black Friday onwards, and with exception to the Giants-Cowboys game of all games, there was at least one missed or blocked field goal in every single game. I'm going to say it again. These motherfucking field goal kickers, some of these niggas have got to be executed. Because, yes, look, while the range of certain kickers out there, it's skyrocketed. It has over the past few decades or so compared to kickers of the older times. But the way in which some of these kickers miss nowadays tend to look even worse compared to the more traditional kickers of the last era. Some of these are gimme field goals, and you mean to tell me you can't bang in, like I mentioned the one from Joey Slye. How do you miss a field goal from 25 yards out? How are you missing? Yes, the PATs are out further, but damn. Like, you're still in a spot where it's a chip shot. There's no shot. They should really be that simple. Like, it's just been so bad this season. I don't know what to say. And yet there has been progress made. Still, very, very conflicting. Very conflicting. But hey, both Christian McCaffrey and Taysom Hill will be out for the rest of the season due to their respective injuries. Christian McCaffrey blew out his PCL, I believe. Unfortunately. And he tweaked that actually on the play before he went out. Then he ran for another play and felt off completely. So he just recused himself from the game. They had to figure out what was going on with him after. And once they figured it out, yeah, he ain't coming back. Just a few short games of Christian McCaffrey. One of the better, if not the best, running back in the league when healthy. But injuries have certainly been a theme for him over the past few years. Taysom Hill, on the other hand, again, it's one of the best remaining skill position players that the Saints have left right now. And him being out is certainly going to hurt them even more than they've already been hurt with some of their prior injuries and just this general stretch of games since week 2, to be honest. Because even with them having these guys at maximum strength, like, they still completely crumbled and crushed all their fans' hopes and dreams. Azeez Al-Shaair would be suspended 3 games for his hit on Trevor Lawrence, and multiple parties surrounding him, I guess, tried to appeal. They would not let up. They upheld it. Trevor Lawrence would also be placed on injured reserve, leaving him out for the season. So again, like I said, it ties in together. There were multiple people clamoring for him to be banned from the league completely. And, yeah, like that's, damn. I guess I kind of feel it. But, like, shit. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's always a tough spot to be in. But, you know, like, you'll have you're trying to be, I don't know, like, they just want to kind of just flip-flop in between allowing for soft play and allowing for, you know, bone-crushing plays to happen, really. Like, you'll call some of the most ticky-tack penalties that probably don't even have business being called. And then a lot of the harder hits and things like that may be perceived by the general public as excessive, you allow. But then, in cases where, I guess, I really don't know, in certain cases within that context, you'll still find the chance to flag a player and try to uphold that player's safety while also making it difficult for certain maneuvers to happen on both sides. It's just quite the complex situation when we're talking about these refs. But, I mean, in terms of a 3-game suspension, I mean, it probably could have been worse, to be much honest. If they really wanted to do it, I think they could have. Don't know if it will affect the Texans too much, though. But, you know, with him not having any prior suspensions, though, again, like, I guess if he's developed a reputation for being a dirty player like this, then at the very least, all you can hope for is that he's actually sincere with his apology, that he actually learns from this, and that he actually can hold off on doing some of this crazy shit for quite a while, because if not, then we start treading into the territory where it's like, alright, this nigga's dirty. You're dealing with the Vontaze Burfict, the Bill Romanowskis, the Denzel Perryman was doing this shit last season. Kareem Jackson was doing this shit last season. Derwin James plays hard, but it could border dirty play as well, even. It's like, to each their own. Jamal Adams was signed to the Lions practice squad. He has come such a long way. But he stated that he wanted to go to a contender if he was going to be placed in this position, and the Lions are certainly that. So, hope that all fares well for him. The Bills also signed Micah Hyde back to the practice squad. He had been a free agent for most of the time. I guess they need reinforcements. So they're like, why not just go with what we know and get Micah Hyde back? Why not? Especially since with claiming him off of waivers, you don't really have to worry about compensating him as much as you did when he was remaining in free agency and demanding a reasonable contract. Diontae Johnson will be suspended for one game for conduct detrimental to the team, according to multiple NFL insiders, as he voluntarily refused to step foot on the field for a single play. That's interesting. Like, has he been the most productive with the Ravens? Absolutely fucking not. Not even close. Still, when you are part of that team in a contested game like that against the Eagles, I feel like you should be glad to still be called upon for certain plays, and you really should try to maximize every single opportunity you can get. That's just my take on it. Like, I really don't know what the situation looks like on a deeper plane, if anything, like, extra was said, if, I guess, he was just thrown off by some, like, comment or some shit in the locker room, and he just decided, I'm not even gonna, I'm not gonna do this then, like, some stuff like that. Really hard to know that right now, but they do have, they have started the AFC North in-season Hard Knocks show up. Maybe with time in probably one of the episodes down the line, if you are actually tuning into it on the basis of which it drops. I believe it's weekly. That may come along at some point. Until then, it's really up to speculation, I suppose. But that'll do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.